The first episode of this AI podcast is going to be devoted to which video? How about this one? Why money printing no longer causes inflation, a simple explanation. It is the number 5 most watched video on this channel, so onward to the podcast.
Okay, so you've been wanting to deep dive into this whole money printing thing, and whether it's really as inflationary as we've, always thought.
Right.
Let's unpack that a little.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Because the rise of the digital economy, it's really challenging some of those old economic models.
Yeah, because the traditional view, it always seemed pretty straightforward, right? More money equals higher prices.
Exactly.
Right.
More money chasing the same amount of goods.
Right.
Classic supply and demand, right?
Right.
Like Econ 101.
Yeah.
MV equals PQ.
Yeah.
That's it.
But then the audio you shared brought up this interesting example with Netflix.
Okay.
What happens when, like, 1 million new people suddenly sign up?
Right.
Do their prices go up because demand just spiked?
And that's where things get
Yeah.
interesting because unlike a car manufacturer,
Okay.
that suddenly has to find more steel and rubber
Right.
to meet a surge in demand.
Yep.
Netflix doesn't have that problem.
Right.
They don't run out of streaming capacity.
Right.
Their prices don't spike.
Right.
There's no mad dash to build more servers just because 1 million more people want to watch Squid Game or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, no, it makes sense when you think about it, right? No one's getting put on a wait list for Netflix.
Exactly.
So how does this then upend those old rules of inflation?
Well, this Netflix example, I think it highlights a bigger shift
Okay.
towards what's called a knowledge-based economy.
Okay.
It's not just about the physical stuff anymore. It's about the ideas,
Okay.
the designs, the information behind those things.
Okay.
And that is increasingly what's driving value.
Okay, so walk me through that.
Okay.
What does a knowledge-based economy, what does that have to do with inflation?
Okay, think about
Yeah.
sending a letter
Okay.
versus sending an email.
Right.
An email costs essentially nothing to send.
All right. That difference in efficiency is astronomical.
Astronomical. Yeah.
Right. That jump is what we're talking about when we look at the economics of knowledge.
So it's not just about software and ones and zeros.
Right.
It's about how technology changes the way we actually do things.
That's the key takeaway. It's
Yeah.
about the knowledge
Right.
embedded in that technology
Yeah.
that allows us to do more with less.
Okay.
And that has a direct impact on how we understand value
Okay.
and ultimately prices.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here,
Okay.
but this still feels very theoretical to me.
Okay, sure.
What's a concrete example of how this plays out in the real world?
Well, let's look at the software industry itself. Remember when we used to buy software in boxes?
Oh, yeah.
Like
It's
physical.
like a CD-ROM?
Yeah,
Yeah.
physical limitations
Oh,
are
yeah.
a very real constraint back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
You had to manufacture the discs,
Yes.
ship them to stores.
Ship them.
It was all very tangible.
Exactly. And all those physical steps
Yeah.
introduced costs
Right.
that simply don't exist in the digital world.
Right.
Today, distribution is practically instantaneous
Right.
and basically costless.
Yeah.
Think about it. A music file
Yeah.
can be downloaded 1 million times,
Right.
and each copy is identical
Right.
with virtually no added cost to the creator.
That's a huge difference.
Huge.
No more waiting for the delivery truck
No more
or
wait-
running into out-of-stock signs.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that is what changes the game
Okay.
when it comes to inflation.
Okay.
When you can create and distribute a product
Right.
with virtually no marginal cost,
Yeah.
the traditional relationship between
Right.
supply and demand
Yeah.
starts to break down.
Interesting. So are we saying then that in this software-driven world, scarcity, which has always been this
Right.
key driver of inflation, becomes kind of less relevant?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of this shift, right?
Okay.
If the demand for a software product suddenly doubles,
Right.
the cost of meeting that demand is negligible
Right.
compared to, say,
Yeah.
manufacturing cards.
Right.
You're essentially just copying digital bits,
Right.
not building a whole new factory.
Right. I remember that line from the audio.
Yeah.
Software has a finite supply.
Right.
I get it, but it still feels kind of strange to think about.
Sure.
In the real world, there's always a limit, right?
It's definitely a simplification,
Okay.
but it highlights, I think, a fundamental change.
Okay.
The audio used the example of, cars and houses.
Okay.
In the past, if demand for those surged,
Right.
factories struggled to keep up,
Right.
raw materials became more expensive,
Yeah.
prices inevitably rose.
Right.
But software, you just duplicate it.
Right.
Don't need for more rubber or steel in the digital world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't mean that everything is suddenly immune to inflation,
Right.
as the audio pointed out.
Software and these knowledge-based goods
Right.
are a growing part of the economy.
Right. It was something like, what, 3 to 4%?
Yeah, 3 to 4%.
And it's projected to keep growing.
That's right. But it's not the whole economy yet.
Right.
We still need food, housing, energy,
Right.
all those things that rely on
Yeah.
physical resources and processes
Yeah.
where those old rules still apply,
Right.
at least for now.
So it's not like governments can just hit print on infinite money
Right.
without consequences.
Right.
There's still a tipping point somewhere.
That's the big question
Yeah.
economists are wrestling with.
Yeah.
As our economy becomes more digital,
Right.
those old inflation models might not hold up
Right.
in the same way.
Yeah. It is fascinating to think about.
It's fascinating to think about.
What happens as software continues to kind of reshape the world?
Yeah.
Like, what are the implications beyond just like prices and inflation then?
Well, that's what I find so compelling about this whole discussion.
Yeah.
It's not just some abstract economic theory.
Yeah.
It changes how we think about
Okay.
economic growth,
Okay.
resource allocation,
Okay.
even global power dynamics.
Okay. Now we're really going deep.
Yeah.
I'm with you, though.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what you mean by by global power dynamics.
W- If knowledge is truly the most valuable resource
Okay.
in this new economy, right,
Yeah.
then whoever controls that knowledge
Yeah.
wields the tremendous amount of power.
Right.
Just think about the
Yeah.
companies
Yeah.
and the countries
Right.
that are at the forefront of tech right now.
So we're talking about like the big tech giants, obviously.
Sure.
But also like
Yeah.
countries leading the way in AI or
Yeah.
semiconductor development, like
Precisely
every-
their influence extends far beyond
Yeah.
the products they create.
Right. Right.
They're essentially shaping the rules of the game for everyone else.
It's like they're writing the code for the global economy, and
Yeah.
everyone else is just playing by their rules.
That's a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it raises really important questions
Right.
about how to ensure
Right.
this transition to a knowledge-based economy
Right.
is equitable.
Right.
It benefits everyone,
Not just a select few.
not just a select few.
It's like we're living through an economic revolution in real time.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we're only just beginning to grasp like the implications.
Absolutely.
It's true what they say. The only constant is change.
That's right.
This has given me so much to think about.
Right.
Before we go full economics professor on everyone, though,
Okay.
maybe we should circle back to the audio for a sec.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's easy to get
Yeah.
caught up in the big picture.
Right.
And often the most compelling insights
Right.
are in the details.
You're right. For instance, the speaker made some really interesting points
Yeah.
about how this shift to a knowledge-based economy
Is already playing out in the real world.
right.
Even in industries we might not think of as like high tech. It's funny, when you think about something like software,
Right.
it seems obvious
Yeah.
that you can just like reproduce it almost endlessly.
Yeah.
But we don't always connect that to the bigger picture
Uh,
of how our economy works.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah, we're so used to thinking about resources
Yeah.
as being finite
Right.
and scarcity
Right.
driving up prices.
Right. But as the audio pointed out,
Yeah.
even something like a semiconductor chip, right?
Mm-hmm.
While it has to be physically produced,
Sure.
it's much more about the knowledge
Yeah.
that goes into designing it and creating it,
Absolutely.
right? The speaker used that great line.
Yeah.
Something like, it's 95% knowledge, not raw materials.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even with physical goods, that knowledge component
Yeah.
is becoming more and more important
For sure.
Right on.
Absolutely. That's where we see the lines blurring. Okay.
between the physical
Yeah.
and the digital.
Yeah.
Take 3D printing, for example.
Oh, wow.
Go
Yeah.
right.
You're not shipping a finished product.
Right.
You're shipping the design,
That's right.
the knowledge to create it locally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that design can be used to print that product
Right.
anywhere in the world on demand.
Yeah.
It's another great example
Yeah.
of how knowledge is changing the rules of
Huh.
manufacturing
Okay.
and distribution.
This has been a mind-blowing deep dive.
It is interesting. Yes.
But let's bring it home. Like, what does this mean for me?
Right.
Should I be running out to invest in software companies and 3D printers?
Well, I'm not in the business of giving financial advice.
Of course, of course.
But I think the takeaway is
Yeah.
this shift to a knowledge-based economy
Yeah.
is something that's going to impact all of us,
Okay.
not just economists.
So it's not just about inflation then.
Right.
It's about understanding these like powerful forces
Yeah,
that are shaping the world around us.
totally.
Yeah, right.
It's about asking ourselves some big questions.
Okay, like what?
If knowledge is the new gold,
Okay.
how do we ensure
Yeah.
everyone has access to it?
Right.
How do we prepare for a future
Yeah.
where the skills and ideas that we possess
Mm-hmm.
are our most valuable assets?
Those are some big, important questions.
Yeah.
And I don't have all the answers.
Right.
But this deep dive has definitely given me a whole new perspective on things.
That's what we're here for,
Yeah.
to challenge those assumptions,
Yeah.
open our minds to new possibilities.
I think that speaker in the audio put it perfectly when they
Mhm.
said the high-tech age is like rewriting the rules
Yeah.
of economics.
Mm.
We're not just turning the page.
Yeah.
We're writing a whole new chapter.
We were ready in a chapter. It's exciting.
So to everyone listening, here's a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If knowledge really is power in this new economy, what are you doing to invest in your own knowledge and skills?
I love that.
It's something to think about as we navigate this new world.
I could agree more.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Awesome.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning,
Absolutely.
and keep learning.